Hi, I'm David.
And I'm Martina.
Thanks for joining us on Shelf Help Gaming.
Today we review Lost Cities. Lost Cities is a two-player game designed by Rainer Knizia, one of our favorites. It's published by Cosmos Games in their two-player line, and the art is by Vincent Dutrait.
Lost Cities is a fantastic hand management game with set collection. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to go on a series of expeditions. This version has the original game, which had 5 expeditions of different colors. And you can also play with an optional 6th expedition. So you're trying to collect cards ranging, I think, from 2 to 10. And then there's also a couple wager cards that you can get. And you have to play them in order. And once you commit to going on a certain expedition, you're stuck and you have to go through that. So going on the expedition itself costs 20 points. So if you don't get enough cards in that expedition that have certain values, to overcome your 20 points, then you're negative points in the hole. And if you decide to play your wagers before you start playing your numbered cards, that doubles whatever score you have. It doubles or triples or quadruples depending on how many wager cards you have, whatever score you have. So if you don't make enough, you can wind up with negative points at the end of the game.
Yeah, multiply negative points.
But if you do really well and get a lot of cards in there, then you can multiply and get quite high number in the game. So the scores in this game vary widely. So this game is very simple. Rainer Knizia is really good at making games that are very simple with very small rule set, but very excellent emergent gameplay and strategy from those rules. So all you're doing on your turn is you're playing down a card either to one of your expeditions or to a shared discard area depending for each of those expeditions. And then you're drawing a card either from the deck or from one of the previously discarded cards in the middle. And that's basically it. But from that, it's very, the game is very tense with the decisions that you're going to make, because sometimes as soon as you or your opponent commit to a certain color, you're not going to want to discard those cards of that color, because then you're going to be giving your opponent points. So sometimes but you're limited to the number of cards you have in your hand. So oftentimes you have a high value card that is just taking up space in your hand because you don't want to discard it and give it to your opponent. So it's very tense, cat and mouse, chicken type of game. Almost it has elements of push your luck. Just like, how far do I want to go to collect these cards in my hand before I start committing? Because then I'm telling my opponent that I'm invested in this expedition, and they're not going to want to give me cards on there. And it's also a risk versus reward, whether you want to, if you don't have any other cards that you can trash, whether it's worth discarding a card that your opponent is looking for, just so you can clear some space in your hand to potentially draw another card from the deck that you might need.
And then you don't know what cards your opponent is hanging on to.
Yeah.
So you may be looking for the 4, and your opponent has had it the whole time. So you have to gauge in your mind, okay, is it worth it to keep drawing cards to get that 4, or should I just skip over to the 5 or 6 or whatever you happen to have?
Yeah.
And the game is over whenever you go through the draw deck. So you can make your opponent very nervous by continuing to draw from that draw deck.
Yeah.
So it feels like high stakes whenever you're playing.
There are several times in the game, and I love this game. I'm not very good at this game. For some reason, Martina is so much better at this game. She wins more than probably 80% of the time we play this game.
I love this game.
And oftentimes it comes down to I have this really great hand that I'm playing, but I'm just waiting for 1 or 2 cards more to push it over the limit. Because if you get an expedition that has, I think, 8 or more cards in your run, you get a bonus 20 points. Oh. For that set. So a lot of times you're just waiting for 1 or 2 more cards, and then you get to the end of the game and you only have a couple more cards to draw, and you're like, oh dear, I don't have enough time to play these cards before she ends the game.
Yeah. So if you're a little impulsive, like I tend to be, I don't tend to wait too long for my next cards. I just try to get multiple streams of points and run out the game. So Yeah, so it's one of these instances where your impulsivity doesn't always trash your game.
Yeah.
So
But
it's great.
it kind
I
of
love
depends, yeah.
it.
So, some of the things that we like about this game, again, risk management is just phenomenal in this game. You're always weighing your decisions on what's valuable to you and what's going to be too valuable to your opponent if you discard it.
Right.
So that the hand management, the risk versus reward that comes from managing your hand, is phenomenal. Also, the theme is just generic, expedition exploring, but that happens to be one of my favorite themes in games. And especially this art by Vincent Dutrait just really brings it to life. There are a couple different versions of this game. I don't know if Vincent Dutrait does the art on all of them, but I know he did it on the previous version and this version, and it's just absolutely amazing. In fact, you can line up the cards in increasing order for each expedition, and it makes a little panoramic picture that's exploring through these ruins till you get to the lost temple or something at the end.
Something that is not necessary for the gameplay, but it's just such a beautiful touch. And I like that attention to detail in games and art in the games. So we like that there's tension the whole time. There's never a boring lull in the game. You're just always tense and like trying to manage the risk in your hand and in your moves. And yeah, it does have elements of push your luck. You have to gauge like, do I think that my opponent has the card I want? And if so, like, am I gonna wait out until they can no longer hold on to it, or am I just gonna skip ahead? So it's a wild ride the whole time.
Yeah. As far as things that we don't like about the game, there's not much. There's one big issue that can put people off, and that is scoring at the end of the game.
So much math.
The end of the game is like another game in and of itself, not a game like but homework.
Yeah, a little bit of homework at the end.
for every single of the 5 or 6 expeditions that you go on, you lose 20 points for going on the expedition, and then you add up all of the numbers in your sequence, and then you multiply that by the number of wagers that you have, and then
there's also a bonus for having however many cards.
Yeah, so you get a bonus 20 points if you have 8 or more in your expedition, and you add that for every single expedition that you have. So it's not super complicated, but it's a lot.
Yeah, it takes a while.
Basically, just break out your calculator on your phone or whatever and do it. But so that's the only big issue, is the scoring can be kind of long and tedious. Yeah. The other thing that could be a problem for some people, it doesn't bother me in particular, but because of the such high tension and the decisions that you have, some of the decision making can be quite agonizing sometimes, and that can be stressful.
Analysis paralysis.
I personally love that in a game, especially. I think that's the hallmark of a good 2-player game, is if you have those tense, agonizing decisions. Yeah. But it can be a put off for some people.
Yeah, analysis paralysis is a real thing with this game sometimes. So.
Yep. But again, the turns are so simple and so quick that even if you have a bit of analysis paralysis, it's not too bad, because there's only 2 players, and your turn itself is very simple and quick. So you just play a card and draw a card. That's it. So now we're going to give this game our shelf help score. This is where we rate it in 5 different categories. First, strategy, complexity, overall quality, replayability, and aesthetics.
So strategy in this game is basically you're just managing your hand and, trying... How well do you know your opponent? That's why I think it's great for couples to play, because you can kind of know your opponent's tells, and like if they're hanging on stuff that you want. So I think the strategy is great, and you kind of learn as you go. Each time you play, you learn how to manage your hand a little better. Elements of luck, you're drawing cards, so there's a little bit of luck there, and whether or not you drew what your opponent wants. So I think the strategy is great. The score we give for strategy for Lost Cities is a 4 out of 5. There is some luck with regard to the order in which cards come out and what cards you have in your hand to begin with, but the game really focuses on risk management and knowing your opponent. So very strategic.
As far as complexity goes, like I said, this game is not very complex. The turns themselves are very simple. It's very easy to learn. The complexity comes from the depth of strategy that we already talked about, because are those agonizing decisions. But the game itself and learning the game, very simple, very great. For complexity, we rate Lost Cities a 2 out of 5. It is a very simple game to learn. The learning curve and the rules teach is very simple. The only reason why it's not a 1 out of 5 for complexity is because the scoring at the end can be quite cumbersome.
So as far as quality, it's a good quality game. It's just cards, tarot-sized cards, and a rectangular board. The box is fine. it's a not a lot of elements, so not a lot to talk about with the quality, but yeah, good cards. Print production is good.
Yeah.
Oh, and
okay.
we sleeve our cards just because we don't want to be able to identify the card from the back sides. So yeah. I recommend sleeving. Sleeve Kings! The overall quality score for Lost Cities is a 4. They're large, tarot-sized cards, a small rectangular board, which is sturdy enough. And that's basically it. So a 4.
Okay, so as far as replayability, this game is massively replayable just because of the order that the cards come out. You're going to go for different strategies, and the replayability comes from, just reading your opponent and managing those decisions every single time. So I think it's very replayable. There's not a lot to shake up the gameplay other than deciding if you want to play with 5 or 6 expeditions. I think that does change up the dynamic a little bit, because with 6 expeditions, each of you can go on 3 expeditions, whereas with 5, usually you only go on 2, and then maybe one of you will pick up a third one, and maybe it'll be worth it, maybe it won't.
When you play with the 6th expedition, it's purple. So.
Yes, she does like purple. For replayability, we give Lost Cities a 3. There isn't really anything to switch up the game experience from game to game other than the order that the cards come out, unless you have the version that has the 6th expedition. But other than that, all of the replayability comes from exploring different strategies and getting to know your opponent.
As far as the aesthetics of the game, the theme is expedition theme, and it's the art on each card is really cool because, as David mentioned before, it does make a picture if you want to do that when you're done playing. But the graphic design is also very simple and easy for everyone to read. Each color does have a corresponding symbol, so it's color blindness friendly. And so you have the value of the card, and then you just have the symbol of the card, and then some pretty artwork. And so it looks great. The aesthetic score that we give Lost Cities is 5. There's some beautiful art, and if you lay the cards out from each expedition, it creates a beautiful panoramic scene. The graphic design is simple to understand and makes learning the game easy.
All right. As far as player count recommendations, this is a 2-player only game, so it's fine at 2 players. Don't try to play it solo.
Yeah. How would you even do that?
I don't know. Maybe someone on Board Game Geek has come up with a homebrewed version, but
feels like that Pixar short. Gary's game.
Oh, Gerald's game.
Or Gerald's?
Gary's, maybe it's Gary's game. I don't know.
Gary. He's playing chess.
Yeah. Okay, price and availability. This game is an evergreen game. It continues to be reprinted. It is fantastic, and I think it's a great value for the price.
Overall rating for this game is a 10. We don't often give 10s to games because we're a little bit picky, but this is just a perfect game. And who would give us a 10 out of 10 game other than Reiner Knizia? We love Reiner Knizia, and this is definitely one of his best games.
Yeah. Okay, so I think you can tell from our review, but we'd like to say at the end whether we're going to keep this on our shelf or if we're going to sell it. And absolutely...
the shelf.
This game is staying on our shelves forever.
Forever.
As far as other games that you might like, there's a game called Archaeology that's a good set collection game. The newest version is Archaeology, the New Expedition, I think. A good, simple game with set collection that you can play with more than 2 players. And if you like themes of exploration, we really like The Quest for El Dorado is a fun game that's also by Reiner Knizia, and the latest version is also drawn by Vincent Dutrait.
Wow.
And then another game that is one of my favorite games of all time is Lost Ruins of Arnak. That one combines worker placement with deck building. And it's a lot more complicated than this one, but if you like the theme of exploration games, that one is a good one to try as well.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us here on Shelf Help Gaming.
And remember to help your shelf to some games. All right, ready?
Ready, Freddy.
Do you want to do the intro stuff again?
Yes,
or?
yes.
Okay. The game is very simple. All you're doing on your card is first you're playing down a card either to one of your expeditions
All
or...
you're doing on your turn. You said all you're doing on your card.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Thank you for catching that.
So if you struggle with decision making, I don't know, maybe this is a good exercise for you.
That's true.
Because you have to remember, it is actually just a game. Yeah. And yeah, so
you take the -20, then add up all your things plus the multiplying it by all of your so you
see, we're already lost.
Okay. Yeah, no. I think that's about it, right?
Yeah, I think there's another game where you have to collect all the cards, but
Sushi Go.
Oh yeah, but that's not like this one though.
What other set collection games we have? Should have come up with that list before.
Should have thought about this earlier. Later.
All right.
It was still recording.